long time. It's really hard to like debug and whatever. And
so the eyes is gonna be blue, but then
early copy of GPT-5, I was like, I wonder if it can
You
make
see the thing about
this
with eyes,
style
in
give a snake.
blue eyes,
And
with
it
dark
did
skin,
that perfectly in
it
my
will
sense.
turn black after a
And then I
year.
was like, okay,
Oh.
am I
And
supposed
that you
to
won't
be
see any
with
detail.
my like
So
other
now it's
self
gonna be blue, yes,
this was
but
cool,
it won't
or,
last.
like,
oh
you know,
no.
miss something in the process. And I had like 3 seconds of wondering like, oh, is this good or bad? And then I immediately said, actually, now I'm missing this game. I have this idea for a crazy new feature. Let me type it in, it implements it, and it just, the game live updates. And now I'm like, actually, I'd like to do it this way. Actually, I'd like to do this thing. And I had this like, this very like kind of, yeah, this experience that reminded me of being like 11 and programming again, where I was just like, all right, I want to try this. Now I have this idea. Now I can do it. But I could do it so fast, and I could like express ideas and try things and play with things in such real time. I was like, man, you know, I was worried for a second about kids like missing the struggle of learning to program in this sort of Stone Age way, and now I'm just thrilled for them because the way that people will be able to create with these new tools, the speed with which you can sort of bring ideas to life, you know, in that's pretty amazing. So this idea that GPT-5 can just not only like answer all these questions for you, but really create like on-demand, almost instantaneous software. I think that's going to be one of the defining elements of the GPT-5 era in a way that
Please wipe it off for me, please, man.
Okay.
As you're talking about that, I find myself thinking about a concept in weightlifting of time under tension.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, you can squat 100 pounds in 3 seconds, or you can squat 100 pounds in 30. You gain a lot more by squatting it in 30. And when I think about our creative process and when I felt most like I've done my best work, it has required an enormous amount of cognitive time under tension. And I think that cognitive time under tension is so important. And it's ironic almost because these tools have taken enormous cognitive time under tension to develop. In some ways, I do think people might say people are using them as an escape hatch for thinking in some ways maybe. Now, you might say, yeah, but we did that with the calculator and we just moved on to harder math problems. Do you feel like there's something different happening here? How do you think about that?
It's different. I mean, there are some people who are clearly using ChatGPT not to think, and there are some people who are using it to think more than they ever have before. I am hopeful that we will be able to build the tool in a way that encourages more people to stretch their brain with it a little more and be able to do more. And I think that, like, you know, society is a competitive place. Like, if you give people new tools, in theory, maybe people just work less, but in practice, it seems like people work ever harder and the expectations of people just go up. So my guess is that, like other tools, some people, like other pieces of technology, some people will do more and some people will do less. But certainly for the people who want to use ChatGPT to increase their cognitive time under tension, they are really able to. And it is, I take a lot of inspiration from what like the top 5% of the most engaged users do with ChatGPT. Like, it's really amazing how much people are learning and doing it and, you know, outputting.
So I've only had GPT-5 for a couple hours, so I've been playing
What do you
with it.
think so far?
I'm just learning how to interact with it. I mean, part of the interesting thing is I feel like I just caught up on how to use GPT-4, and now I'm trying to learn how to use GPT-5. I'm curious what the specific tasks that you found most interesting are, because I imagine you've been using it for a while now.
I have been most impressed by the coding tasks. I mean, there's a lot of other things it's really good at, but this idea of the AI can write software for anything, and that means that you can express ideas in new ways, that the AI can do very advanced things. It can do, you know, it can like, in some sense you could like ask GPT-4 anything, but because GPT-5 is so good at programming, it feels like it can do anything. Of course it can't do things in the physical world, but it can do very complex things. And software is this super powerful, you know, way to like control some stuff and actually do some things. So that for me has been the most striking. It's much better at writing. So this is like, there's a whole thing of AI slop, like AI writes in this kind of like quite annoying way, and we still have the embeddages in GPT-5. A lot of people like the embeddages, but the writing quality of GPT-5 is gotten much better. We still have a long way to go, and bit more, but like, a thing we've heard a lot from people inside of OpenAI is that, man, they started using GPT-5, they knew it was better on all the metrics, but there's this like nuanced quality
is
that
it
can't
first?
quite articulate, but then when they have to go back to GPT-4 to test something,
Oh, to be
it's
tried.
terrible.
Huh?
And I don't know exactly what the
Yes,
cause
let's
is,
do
but I
the
suspect
woof first.
the writing
Oh.
feels much more
And then afterwards,
natural
can you
and better.
add
I,
on?
in preparation for this interview, reached out to a couple other leaders in AI and technology and gathered a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So this next question is from Stripe CEO Patrick Collison.
I'm
I'm
not
trying
sure.
to read this verbatim. It's about the next stage, what comes after GPT-5. In which year do you think a large language model will make a significant scientific discovery? And what's missing such that it hasn't happened yet? He caveated here that we should leave math and special case models like AlphaFold aside. He's specifically asking about fully general purpose models like the GPT series.
I would say most people will agree that happens at some point over the next 2 years, but the definition of significant matters a lot. And so
Yeah.
some people significant might happen, you know, in early 25, some people might maybe not until late 2026. Sorry, early 2026, maybe some people not until late 2027. But I would bet that by late 27, most people agree that there has been an AI-driven significant discovery. And the thing that I think is missing is just the kind of cognitive power of these models. A framework that one of the researchers said to me that I really liked is, you know, a year ago we could do well on like a high school, like a basic high school math competition, problems that might take a professional mathematician seconds to a few minutes. We very recently got an IMO gold medal. That is crazy difficult. Like,
Can you explain what that means?
that's kind of like the hardest competition manifest. This is something that like, the very, very top slice of the world, many, many professional mathematicians wouldn't solve a single problem. And we scored at the top level. Now there's some humans that got an higher score in the gold medal range, but we like, this is a crazy accomplishment. And each of these problems, it's like 6 problems over 9 hours, so hour and a half per problem for a great mathematician. So we've gone from a few seconds to a few minutes to an hour and a half. Maybe to prove a significantly mathematical theorem is like 1,000 hours of work for a top person in the world. So we've got to go from, you know, another significant gain. But if you look at our trajectory and say like, okay, we're getting to that, we have a path to get to that time horizon. We just need to keep scaling models.
The long-term future that you've described is superintelligence. What does that actually mean? And how will we know when we hit it?
If we had a system that could do better research, better AI research than, say, the whole OpenAI research team, like if we were willing, if we said, okay, the best way we can use our GPUs is to let this AI decide what experiments we should run, smarter than like the whole range of OpenAI.
Yeah.
And if that same, to make a personal example, if that same system could do a better job running OpenAI than I could, so you have something that's like, you know, better than those researchers, better than me at this, better than other people at their jobs, that would feel like superintelligence to me.
That is a sentence that would have sounded like science fiction just a couple years ago,
It's
and now
kind
it
of does,
does.
but it's, you can like see it through the fog.
Yes. And so one of the steps, it sounds like you're saying, on that path is this moment of scientific discovery, of asking better questions, grappling with things in a way that expert level humans do to come up with new discoveries. One of the things that keeps knocking around in my head is if we were in 1899, say, and we were able to give it all of physics up until that point and play it out a little bit, nothing further than that. Like at what point would one of these systems come up with general relativity?
The interesting question is, did you, like, if we think about that forward, like if we think of where we are now, should this, if we never got another piece of physics data, do we expect that a really good superintelligence could just think super hard about our existing data and maybe say like solve high energy physics with no new particle accelerator, or just need to build a new one and design new experiments? Obviously, we don't know the answer to that. Different people have different speculation. But I suspect we will find that for a lot of science, it's not enough to just think harder about the data we have, but we will need to build new instruments, conduct new experiments, and that will take some time. That is, the real world is slow and messy and, you know, whatever. So I'm sure we could make some more progress just by thinking about the current scientific data we have in the world. But my guess is to make the big progress, we'll also need to build new machines and run new experiments, and there will be some sort of into that.
Another way of thinking about this.
Michael Rice, good
AI
day, how are you?
now are just incredibly good at answering almost any question. But maybe one of the things we're saying is it's another leap yet, and what Patrick's question is getting at is to ask the better questions.
Or if we go back to this kind of timeline question, we maybe say that AI systems are superhuman on 1-minute tasks, but a long way to go to 1,000-hour tasks. And there's a dimension of human intelligence that seems very different than AI systems when it comes to these long horizon tasks. Now, I think we will figure it out, but today it's a real weak point.
We've talked about where we are now with GPT-5. We talked about the end goal or future goal of superintelligence. One of the questions that I have, of course, is what does it look like to walk through the fog between the two? The next question is from NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. I'm going to read this verbatim. Fact is what is. Truth is what it means. So facts are objective. Truths are personal. They depend on perspective, culture, values, beliefs, context. One AI can learn and know the facts, but how does one AI know the truth for everyone in every country and every background?
I'm gonna accept as axioms those definitions. I'm not sure if I agree with them, but in the interest of time, I will just take them. I will take those definitions and go with it. I have been surprised, I think many other people have been surprised too, about how fluent AI is at adapting to different cultural contexts and individuals. One of my favorite features that we had ever launched in ChatGPT is the sort of enhanced memory that came out earlier this year. Like it really feels like my ChatGPT gets to know me and what I care about and like my life experiences and background and the things that have led me to where they are. A friend of mine recently, who's been a huge ChatGPT user, so he's got put a lot of his life into all these conversations. He gave his ChatGPT a bunch of personality tests and asked them to answer as if they were him, and it got the same score as he actually got, even though he never really talked about his personality. And my ChatGPT has really learned over the years of me talking to it about my culture, my values, my life. And I have used, I sometimes will use it in like, I'll use like a free account just to see what it's like without any of my history, and it feels really, really different.
Do you use ChatGPT? Do you use ChatGPT?
And so do you
What's that?
envision
You don't know what it is,
in many
man.
different parts
No,
of
I
the world,
don't.
people using different AIs in
Yo,
different
but I'm
cultural
gonna show
or
you.
contexts? Is that what we're saying?
Type anything into it.
Phenomenal.
How to make
Context provided to them.
sales.
That will make it behave in sort of personalized way.
And he'll give you a blueprint of it.
I think what we're
It's
getting
almost like a Google,
is
but it's
facts
better.
of truth, and it brings me to
Better.
I don't know.
this seems like a good moment for our first time travel trip. Okay, we're going to 2030. This is a serious question, but I want to ask it in a lighthearted example. Have you seen the bunnies that are jumping on the trampoline?
Yes.
So for those who haven't seen it, maybe it looks like backyard footage of bunnies enjoying jumping on the trampoline. And this has gone incredibly viral recently. There's a human-made song about it, the whole thing. And I think the reason why people reacted so strongly to it, it was maybe the first time people saw a video, enjoyed it, and then later found out that it was completely AI generated. In this time travel trip, if we imagine in 2030 we are teenagers and we're scrolling, whatever teenagers are scrolling in 2030, how do we figure out what's real and what's not real?
I mean, I can give all sorts of literal answers to that question. We could be cryptographically scienced up and we could decide who we trust their signature if they actually found something or not. But my sense is what's going to happen is it's just going to like gradually converge. Even like a photo you take out of your iPhone today, it's like mostly real, but it's a little not. There's like in some AI thing running there in a way you don't understand, making it look like a little bit better, and sometimes you see these weird things where yeah. But there's like a lot of processing power between the photons captured by that camera sensor and the image you eventually see. And you decide it's real enough, or most people decide it's real enough, but we accepted some gradual move from when it was like photons hitting the film in a camera. And, you go look at some video on TikTok, there's probably all sorts of video editing tools being used to make it better than reality. But yeah, exactly. Or it's just like, you know, whole scenes are completely generated, or some of the whole videos are generated, like those bunnies on my trampoline. And I think that the sort of like the threshold for how real does it have to be considered to be real will just keep moving.
So it's sort of an education question that's people will.
Yeah, I mean, media is always like a little bit real and a little bit not real. Like, you watch like a sci-fi movie, you know that didn't really happen. You watch like someone's like beautiful photo of themselves on vacation on Instagram, like, okay, maybe that photo was like literally taken, but you know there's like tons of tourists in line for the same photo and that's like left out of it. And I think we just accept that. Now, certainly a higher percentage of media both will feel not real, but I think it's been a long-term trend anyway.
Big day ahead. Summary under power start. High in energy, 7B vitamins, and iron. Kellogg's cornflakes. Power breakfast.
This is me making sure my eczema doesn't get in the way of having an awesome day. E45 cream, clinically proven to treat and relieve eczema and dry skin conditions.
Still trading without a plan? Recognize patterns in seconds and build strategies like a pro with FBS. Get all the trade smarter. FBS Trading Academy. Insights from the shares community. VIP analytics. And AI assisted for analysis. Join FBS now.
You can take the from McDonald's home with one of 12 little McDonald's.
We're gonna jump again.
Okay.
2035. We're graduating from college, you and me. There are some leaders in the AI space that have said that in 5 years, half of the entry-level white-collar workforce will be replaced by AI. So we're college graduates in 5 years. What do you hope the world looks like for us? I think there's been a lot of talk about how AI might cause job displacement, but I'm also curious, I have a job that nobody would have thought we could have, you know, a decade ago. What are the things that we could look ahead if we're thinking
I mean,
about?
2035, that like graduating college student, if they still go to college at all, could very well be like leaving on a mission to explore the solar system on a spaceship in some kind of completely new, exciting, super well-paid, super interesting job, and feeling so bad for you and I that like we had to do this kind of like really boring old kind of work and everything is just better. Like I 10 years feels very hard to imagine at this point.
Because it's too far.
It's too far. If you compound the current rate of change for 10 more years, it's
I might
probably something
change
you
my
can't even.
time travel trips.
I think now would be really hard to imagine 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years forward will be even much harder, much more different.
So let's make it 5 years. We're still going to 2030. I'm curious what you think the pretty short-term impacts of this will be for young people. And I mean, these like half of entry-level jobs replaced by AI makes it sound like a very different world that they would be entering than the one that I did.
I think it's totally true that some classes of jobs will totally go away. This always happens, and young people are the best at adapting to this. I'm more worried about what it means, not for the like 22-year-old, but for the 62-year-old that doesn't want to go retrain or reskill or whatever the politicians call it, that no one actually wants but politicians most of the time. If I were 22 right now and graduating college, I would feel like the luckiest kid in all of history.
Why?
Because there's never been a more amazing time to go create something totally new, to go invent something, start a company, whatever it is. I think it is probably possible now to start a company that is a one-person company that will go on to be worth like more than $1 billion, and more importantly than that, deliver an amazing product and service to the world. And that is like a crazy thing. You have access to tools that can let you do what used to be teams of hundreds. And you just have to like, you know, learn how to use these tools and come up with a great idea. And it's like quite amazing.
If we take a step back, I think the most important thing that this audience could hear from you on this optimistic show is in 2 parts. First, there's tactically, how are you actually trying to build the world's most powerful intelligence? And what are the rate limiting factors to doing that? And then philosophically, how are you and others working on building that technology in a way that really helps and not hurts people? So just taking the tactical part right now, my understanding is that there are three big categories that have been limiting factors for AI. The first is compute, the second is data, and the third is algorithmic design. How do you think about each of those three categories right now? And if you were to help someone understand the next headlines that they might see, how would you help them make sense of all of this?
I would say there's a fourth too, which is figuring out the products to build. Like technology, like scientific progress on its own, not putting into the hands of people is of limited utility and doesn't sort of co-op with society in the same way. But if I could get all four of those.
Yeah.
So on the compute side, yeah, this is like the biggest infrastructure project, certainly that I've ever seen. Possibly it will become, I think it will, maybe already is the biggest, most expensive one in human history. But the whole supply chain from making the chips and the memory and the networking gear, wrapping them up in servers, doing, a giant construction project to build like a mega data center, putting the, finding a way to get the energy, which is often a limiting factor, piece of it, all the other components together. This is hugely complex and expensive, and we're still doing this in like a sort of bespoke one-off way, although it's getting better. Like eventually we will just design a whole kind of like mega factory that takes, I mean, spiritually, it will be melting sand on one end and putting out fully built AI compute on the other. But we are a long way to go from that. And it's an enormously complex and expensive process. We are putting a huge amount of work into building out as much compute as we can and to do it fast. And, it's going to be like sad because GPT-5 is going to launch and there's going to be another big spike in demand and we're not going to be able to serve it. It's going to be like those early GPT-4 days, and the world just wants much more AI than we can currently deliver. And building more compute is an important part of doing that. This is what I expect to turn the majority of my attention to, is how we build compute at much greater scales. So how we go from millions to tens of millions and hundreds of millions, and eventually, hopefully, billions of GPUs that are sort of in service of what people want to do with this.
When you're thinking about it, what are the big challenges here in this category that you're going to be thinking about?
We're currently mostly limited by energy. Like if you're gonna run a gigawatt scale data center, it's like a gigawatt, how hard can that be to find? It's really hard to find a gigawatt power available in the short term. We're also very much limited by the processing chips and memory chips, how do you package these all together, how do you build the racks? And then there's like a list of other things that are, there's like permits, there's construction work. But again, the goal here will be to really automate this. Once we get some of those robots built, they can help us automate even more. But just, like a world where we can basically pour in money and get out a data center. So that'll be a huge unlock if we can get it to work. Second category, data. Yeah. These models have gotten so smart. There was a time when we could just feed it another physics textbook and got a little bit smarter at physics, but now, honestly, GPT-5 understands everything in the physics textbook pretty well. We're excited about synthetic data. We're excited about our users helping us create harder and harder tasks and environments to go off and have the system solve. But I think data will always be important, but we're entering a realm where the models need to learn things that don't exist in the data set yet. They have to go discover new things. So that's like a crazy new
How
step.
do you teach a model to discover new things?
Well, humans can do it. Like we can go off and come up with hypotheses and test them and get experimental results and update on what we learn. So probably the same kind of way.
And then there's algorithmic design.
Yeah, we've made huge progress on algorithmic design. The thing that OpenAI does best in the world is we have built this culture of repeated and big algorithmic research games. So we kind of, figured out what became the GPT paradigm. We figured out what became the reasoning paradigm. We're working on some new ones now. But it is very exciting to me to think that there are still many more orders of magnitudes of algorithmic games ahead of us. We just yesterday released a model called GPT-OSS, an open source model is a model that is as smart as O4 Mini, which is a very smart model that runs locally on a laptop. And this blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, if you had asked me a few years ago when we had a model of that intelligence running on a laptop, I would have said many, many years in the future. But then we found some algorithmic gains, particularly around reasoning, but also some other things that let us do a tiny model that can do this amazing thing. And, you know, those are the most fun things. That's like kind of the coolest part of the job.
I can see you really enjoying thinking about this. I'm curious for people who don't quite know what you're talking about, who aren't familiar with how an algorithmic design
Yeah.
would lead to a better experience that they actually use. Could you summarize the state of things right now? Like, what is it that you're thinking about when you're thinking about how fun this problem is?
Let me start back at the history and I'll get to some things today. So, GPT-1 was an idea at the time that was quite mocked by a lot of experts in the field, which was, can we train a model to play a little game, which is show it a bunch of words and have it guess the one that comes next in the sequence. That's called unsupervised learning. You're not really saying like this is a cat, this is a dog. You're saying here's someone who's guessed the next one. And the fact that that can go learn these very complicated concepts, learn all the stuff about physics and math and programming, and keep predicting the word that comes next and next